I'm an old-timer at this school. I graduated 35 years ago, 1984. And before I start, I want to thank my parents because they are both here. And they have been paying tuition since the 70s till about 2011 in this school. And thank you, father, mother. My dad was a surgeon in the ABC hospital for many years, a world-renowned surgeon, and he brought us to the best available school in the country, and I have him and my mom to thank a lot. But also here, 35 years ago, I met my sweetheart, my wife, Melissa, who is here. She's also an alum. We've been together for over 28 years now, almost 30, and thank you, Meli, for being here. It's great to be here, and I chose this topic to talk to you about the greatness of being an alumni of this school and what it taught me, and I can sum it up in one sentence. Tikkun Olam, to heal the world. And this is an old saying, an old mikvot from the Old Testament, and healing the world, fixing the world, trying to do the best we can to improve things is something that our core values as ASF students. If you think of when you walked in, you see this justice, understanding, truth. These are our core values, and I think they were very strongly instilled in me in this institution. And growing up in Mexico City was a privilege because I also lived in Lomas, and we used to drive every day with my dad, my 4 brothers, and I drove to school every day. And this city taught me a lot, and we've heard this in this ASF talk evening. We've heard a lot about the greatness of our city, of our culture, the incredible diversity. But for me, as a little boy growing up in this city, I sensed a lot of things that sort of have become true. And in a sense, when I was a little boy, and we drove to school every day with my brothers, and then we drove back for many years, all of my education, I always thought that a storm was brewing, a terrible storm, because we've hear other speakers talk about the problems of inequality, of poverty. We've seen that we have options. We are very privileged in this school for our families and our education and our values. But most Mexicans do not have that privilege. And I was very aware. I remember coming to school every day and in every semáforo, watching the little boys clean our windshield wipers. And I think if we are instilling the values in our youth of justice, of understanding, and of truth, it is very evident that we are privileged, and thus Tikkun Olam, thus the responsibility that we have as men and as women to help transform the world, to help take steps to improving the lives of others that are not so fortunate. Mexico is, since I was growing up and coming to this beautiful school, I remember in the tennis courts after school sports playing, I was waiting for my dad down on the south fence, and I hooked my backpack with my tennis racket in the fence, and some little boys came and stole it from me. And I ran after school and I chased them into Bondojito, and after a long run, I turned around and I looked at where I was. Have you seen the neighborhood right next to us of totally underprivileged and vulnerable people? We have destroyed this country for decades, and not only socially, environmentally. I'm a doctor, I'm an epidemiologist. I have trained at one of the best institutions in the world to understand that human problems are not separate from environmental problems. This is the Valle de Bravo area, in 1973, a NASA photograph. That's the Valley of Toluca. Right there in the center, you don't see it because of the resolution, the city of Toluca. The circle is Valle de Bravo. Look at it in 2018. The degradation is not only of our social system, it's of our environment. Pesticides, plastics, media pollution of the mind. We've come to an incredible moment in history where I think I became aware that Mexico is very hurt. Mexico has been extremely hurt for many decades, and it is our responsibility, being the privileged ones that live in areas we choose to live in, and coming in our private cars with our chauffeurs and our gardens and our summer houses. We have a responsibility, Tikkun Olam, of mending what is broken, of trying to contribute. There are so many problems, kidnappings, robberies, homicides. So I think this became very ingrained in me from my early infancy. After graduating high school, I went to UNAM to study law a couple of years, then medical school. And my formation has been very oriented towards this fixing the world perspective that grew out of the multicultural diversity of the student body in this school. I had the privilege then, as you heard, to go to Harvard. My mind was set on that. This school prepared me to go there. I applied to one university and to one program, and I knew I was going to get in because of this mission, because of this vision to heal and to fix the world. I remember very important professors such as Noam Chomsky or Nobel laureates such as Elie Wiesel. And if you've read Elie Wiesel and you understand where we are coming from, it's not that long ago, the Shoah, World War II, what is happening now. And I think I came to learn very important things at Harvard that I want to share with you. And this is basically, I can sum it up, my 5 years over there with the following thoughts. That's the General Assembly of the United Nations. In 1948, the nations came together after what happened, and they came together with an incredible tool, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And what conforms that plus the international covenants for civil, political, and social rights, and for economic, cultural, and political rights, this bill, this International Bill of Human Rights, holds the key to a very important secret that I learned and reaffirmed at Harvard. I'm very happy that I had the chance to take that stage in the name of Mexico and to speak from that podium to the world regarding the topics that I do in my world, but something in my job. But something that you must know, that it sounds sort of logic. If we want to understand the health of a single person, of a boy, of a kid, or a mom, you can't just look at his biological body. You have to look at where he was born, his parents, his community, his environment, the context. And you know what? Human health and human well-being and human happiness is triggered in the early stages. And neurobiology and neuroimaging has taught us that if a child suffers maltreatment or violence or poverty or is in the stoplights asking for money all his life, his brain is going to be damaged. He's not going to have the neural circuits to be an able member of society. So yes, I am mad. I have been mad about this situation for many years. Because if you look at the numbers, if you look at Mexico, what is happening, you can see it in a couple of diagrams. The green there is mortality from external causes of injury, road traffic deaths, suicide, homicide, drowning, burning. Those are the main issues. And if you look at young people, From the age of 5 to 14 years old, why do our kids die in Mexico? Well, number 2 cause, they die in a car. Number 3 cause, they drown, or they commit suicide, or they kill them. The first cause of death in Mexico from 10 years to date is homicide, from 15 to 44 years of age. The second cause is dying in a car. This does not happen in the rest of the world. And it is our responsibility as being ASF alumni, being well-educated, well-trained, to bring this sort of discussion to the policies and to the programs. It is not fair. In 2008, I went to work in Ciudad Juarez, and you have communities with people such as Pee-wee, an 18-year-old boy that has killed 62 people, or Jorge David that has killed 37 people. What kind of community is that? What kind of Mexico are we allowing to happen? It is our responsibility. This is, for many years, I have led the creation of observatories where we can map the hotspots of homicide and of road traffic injuries and of robberies. And I have gone to many cities to work with their policemen and their authorities to be able to use the highest technology to understand how to combat crime and injury deaths. You know, in the year 2014, I wrote a study and estimated that violence is costing the country more than 15% of GDP every year. Last year, I just finished a study for USAID. We lost over $67 billion in direct and indirect costs of violence in Mexico. And the worst part is that we've known for many years how to fix this problem. I am part of an organization of the United Nations called the Violence Prevention Alliance, and we are working as many other organizations like Mexicanos contra la Corrupción in the field of corruption, like Mexicanos Primero in the field of education, like Causas en Común. There's many people trying to fix the world. From this organization, I have led the efforts to reduce in half the number of road traffic deaths and injuries, because we know we can save millions of lives in Mexico. This is a problem that's costing us not only lives and loss, but there are solutions. And we know what solutions. I know you guys, as educated citizens of the world, do not use your cell phones when you're driving. But for example, that is one of the main causes of death currently, the use of mobile technologies while driving. But also drinking and driving, the alcohol control program, we started it throughout the country. Now my focus now is not only in road safety as a leader of the National Alliance for Road Safety, but also in guns. You know, last year we had over 30 million crimes in Mexico. Half of those were, over half of those, 57% of those, were 18 million, were committed with guns. We have had in this millennium more than 460,000 homicides in the country. Where is the outrage? You know where these guns are coming from? From 10 corporations in the United States that produce 8 million guns every year, and most of them make their money, 47% of them make their income with Mexico sales, which are illegal. We only have one store allowed to sell guns in Mexico. They have more gun shops than McDonald's or than pharmacies, more than 60,000. So I have made it part of my mission and my work to make sure that we sue the US government for their policies and the US companies. Maybe some lawyers here want to help us in taking this to the International Court of La Hague, because this is a public nuisance. The definition of a public nuisance is this act or condition that interferes with the rights of other people. We are the first Americans in this region. Our city is the eldest in this continent. This obnoxious and dangerous person, and you know who I'm talking about, or group of people, just passed a resolution last month where companies that sell guns will no longer have to ask permission to the Department of State to sell their guns. And that is criminal because they are harming us. And I will wrap it up with a couple of thoughts. I am a member of the National Academies of Science in the United States, their Forum for Global Violence Prevention. Outside of our building in Washington lies Albert Einstein. Maybe you've seen him. And he has said that the right to search for truth, remember, justice, understanding, truth, those are our core values. The right to search for truth implies also a duty. One must not conceal what one has found to be true. And there are many things that we know that are true in this country and that we should be a part of fixing them. Tikkun Olam is this idea, is that the responsibility is not only for our own moral, for our own personal growth, for our own material well-being, but for the well-being of the community, for the well-being of the society. And we can no longer, not anymore, be silent about this. From our positions, from our work, we must take a stand. And keep in mind that now we have accomplished an agenda, a uniform agenda 2030 with 17 sustainable development goals. My work is focused on 3 or 4 of them. And we also have a roadmap which is a call of action to save the world, to change the world, because the world and Mexico are not working right. If we want to work for peaceful, just, and inclusive Mexico, you should all look into SDG 16+. Contact us. We know how to end the violence. There's a lot of programs that have been consensual among many organizations, and I think we should all become involved. And finally, I think of my grandchildren, Diego and Isabela, and I think of the greatness of our country and of our legacy and of Tikkun Olam as a way of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arturo. What an amazing speech.